Probably we have more schools joining us in the next 2-3 minutes. It is a pleasure for me to be here and be invited to do this, right? So this session is going to be, I'm going to make this smaller there. As I talk, you can ask questions in the chat pod and I will answer. If the question is very common, maybe I will put the question up to the end of the presentation. I think I have only 40 minutes to do this, so it will be very, very fast. If you cannot follow my accent, please let me know. that's not a problem, right? Okay, let's start working with this. So this is the overview of my presentation. I'm going to talk about what is happening before your exams right now, right? And what is happening during the exam. What are some tips that you can use to do during the exam to be successful, right? So thank you for all those people that are just joining us and coming from the other room. Do you love the teletransportation with this type of technology? Cool. Welcome, guys. Really welcome. Cool. So can you see my slides clear? Can you hear me clearly? Yes, all of you? You can say yes in the chat box. Thank you. Great, thank you. So what you have to do and what is the exam require from you? So do not panic, right? All those 4 boxes in there are the things that we as a markers, we are going to look in the exam. The content of the course, right? From year 11 to 12, right? Many concepts in year 11 are considered assumed knowledge and it can be tested in the exam. All your working scientifically skills, right? Problem solving, critical thinking, reading tables, graphs, annotations, diagrams, etc. You know, all the identifications of variables, questions, inquiry questions, hypotheses, all that working scientific skills. Then the applications of biology, all right, in different contexts, agriculture, vaccines, for sure is going to be a COVID question there. Pharmaceuticals, diseases, and biotechnologies. And then the ethics on that application, right? The ethics of technologies, the laws, Aboriginal protocols that you have to follow, society beliefs, the impact in society, and the bias that a lot of those ethics can have in our society. So this is what you require to know when you are sitting the exam. So my big tip, and I practice this with my students, is know the syllabus. You need to know the syllabus. So I highly recommend you and your teachers to sit down and do this strategy. Grab the biology syllabus, right? And highlight in 3 colors. In red, what you don't know, because maybe you don't know things. Obviously, you still have another term to go with the non-infectious and disorders module, but from the previous modules, I don't know about this. In red, oh, I'm not sure about this one. I didn't get it when my teacher was explaining, and I know about this. This is going to help you to organize your study notes later on. Physically sit down and study. Your learning is not going to come into your brain by diffusion, right? You actually have to sit down and study. Practice from previous exams. Create your own notes. Create your own concept maps. Learn the verbs, right? And learn biology as a story. biology is a story of life. If you start learning biology in year 11 as a story, starting with the cell, when you are reaching in year 12 that you have to apply that knowledge, it's going to make your life much easier to retain that information. So, get organized with your study. Create concept maps. Keep in mind that you need to know how you learn, right? Some people don't learn with concept maps. Some people cannot learn with tables. Some people cannot learn writing notes. So you should know by this time how you learn. What is the best tip and the best strategy for you to learn? Some people need color coding. I need color coding, right? And some people don't, right? So all these dot points in here will apply to you according to your learning style, right? So you can use any of them, right, to consolidate your learning and build up your knowledge. This is very important, and I'm going to come back to this one. Create an investigation scaffold for each of the investigations that you did in class. So for example, when you're going to create your notes, right, you can use this strategy. Have the term, have the content, right, the title of that content. I put in this case sexual reproduction from module 5. Have the definition of that content, and then what these interrelate to other sections in the syllabus from previous in year 11, right? And put examples. It makes sense. So you need to actually do this for every single concept if you have time, right? But this is a good strategy that many of my students are using at the moment. They create a table and online with Excel or with a Word document, and as we are learning, we are filling this up, right? So at the end of the course, right, you don't have to spend the entire holiday sitting in front of the computer and learning biology and studying biology. So I said before that you have to learn the syllabus, right? So in the syllabus you have the outcomes. These are the ones that they are going to be tested in your exam, right? And you can see that the 3 first ones are skills, and only one outcome is content, right? So you need to focus on these ones. And then these are the topics that you were learning related to those outcomes. So in this learning, you have to apply those skills, right? And answer the inquiry questions with these dot points. These dot points are the ones that if you have the inquiry question in your exam, you should be able to do a little summary of these to answer that question. Then, in the syllabus, they have a very tricky terminology. In the syllabus says, for example, you have to learn one example well, but you know to know all of the examples listed in the syllabus. With this wording, including and included but not limited to, you have to learn everything under that point, under that content statement. Is this clear? Because a couple of years ago when I was marking, this was not clear for many teachers in our HSC marking center, and Nessa explained this to us. Learn one example well, because the exam can say give an example, but you need to know all of them as well, because they can ask for the others. Make sense? Teachers, make a note of that. Cool. So another thing is what I said before, all these content statements below the inquiry question is the evidence to answer the inquiry question. So make a little summary for this at the end of each module. We sit with my students and we actually create a summary to answer that question. The other thing, verbs. They're still marking the verbs in the HSC. So these are the common verbs that they are in the syllabus. They are less than it was before, right? Investigate is a big one. I put explain twice, sorry. And all of them, if you go to the NESA site, have a definition, right? If you look for the NESA verbs and you Google it, you will have the definition and what is expected uh, and how to expect you are going to answer this question. Other terms that they are used in the exams are these ones, right? Synthesized, right? Predict something, propose something, critically thinking, extrapolate, annotate, recommend, discuss. So these ones can be in your answers, in your questions as well. So keep an eye on those. One of the things that is extremely important for each concept is to practice from the lower level verb to the highest level verb. And I'm going to give an example. So, and this is something that I do as well in my class. So if we start with a lower verb, like describe, for example, you are going to just list the characteristics. With the same content, with the same topic, you answer the topic on the next level, which is explain. And then you're going to analyze. And then you're going to assess or evaluate or justify. Make sense? Let's see an example. Oh, before doing the example. To do that build up, you can use different strategies. You can use the alarm. This is coming from Blaxland High School, but a lot of schools are doing this. So if you Google this type of senior alarm steps, you can get plenty of tables. And in here, you have the verbs. Can you see? Identify, describe, explain, critically analyze, and evaluate. And you have in there the questions that you have to answer related to that verb. And you can see the build up. What is the main component goes to every single of them. So when you're going to do your answer, and you have to, let's see, answer DNA replication, what are the main components of this? What are the features? What is the function? What is the impact of DNA replication? What is the extent of the impact? How we use DNA replication, right? Another strategy that I use a lot is this one, to organize those long answers into mini essays. TXXC. The topic, first sentence. Then the explanation of the topic, cause and effect. Then I extend a little bit more, right? So I put an example in there later on, and I write the conclusion with a judgment. Wording for judgment. This knowledge and has enhanced the understanding. Thanks to this knowledge, the application can be. This increase our understanding of this content or this topic or whatever, right? So can you see the wording? Enhance, increase knowledge and understanding, improve the life of people, improve the quality of life, decrease the quality of life. Could be the negative or the positive. But the marker will look for those sentences for that band 6. Make sense so far? Now another one, right, that you can use is this one, peel. Oh, is my sound a little bit low, Alex, or you cannot hear me properly? Could be my accent, Alex. You lost sound. Sometimes it's a bandwidth, that audio.
Sylvia, I can hear you perfectly well, so it may be that people need
Maybe
to
they
either
end.
do an audio setup wizard
Right.
or
If
maybe
you, yeah,
log off
that's
and log
fine.
back in.
Right. You can log it in and out, or if you go to the meeting in here and you can go audio setup wizard and run this, because sometimes when new people are joining, it can stuff up your audio as well. So if you click meeting, audio setup wizard and follow those steps, it will take only a couple of seconds to do it. Right. Thank you for that. Okay, you can use this sentence to link the sentence in the answer, right? For example, this is demonstrated. Another point to consider. There is a very tricky verb that is called compare and contrast, right? Or distinguish. Those ones are really tricky verbs to link concepts. So using this type of wording, and you can have you have all these in your booklets, and then you can watch the recordings again or take screenshots, right? Of this. So these type of links are really important to link the content inside the answer, so there is a flow of ideas and a build up of ideas that the marker will look for in your answer. Let's see an example. Let's put protein synthesis. It's a very tricky concept, right? So, first verb, describe protein synthesis. Just a definition, what it is. Second one, explain. So I put my first sentence, and then in this process, what is going on, right? So I explain the process. I give more information in my answer. If the answer says analyze, right? You need to put more in there. And then you put in here the relationship between the DNA, the mRNA, the tRNA, right? And can you see the wording? Is crucial to produce the proteins needed in the metabolism, right? And then some of them are PIRA. If not, the recording will be available for you as well to watch it again with your students later on. It's not a problem. And then the last one will be evaluate. When I evaluate, I'm making a judgment. So in this evaluate, it will be from the first definition that I give you and the explanation and the analysis and then the evaluation. Look at the wording. Is important, right? So I'm making a judgment. Will affect the function of metabolic pathways, right? So it just gives you that if the question says evaluate and you do not have this sentence at the end or the beginning, in the middle, I do not mind, straight away you're going to be penalized because there is no evaluation. Make sense? Good. Great. Another thing that you will have in your exams is annotated diagrams, annotated graphs, and annotated processes and flowcharts. What we mean with annotation is simple explanations around the diagram that is telling the marker what is going on, right? You can, and I saw these beautiful pieces of art, right? With no labels or with no annotations, so straight away it's only 1 mark. And maybe the question is a 4, 5, 6 marker, and then you have only 1 mark because you didn't label it properly or you didn't put the annotations. And you can see that the annotations are not huge things, just sentences here and there explaining the process, the diagram, the steps. Next one, annotated graphs. This was a really nasty question, actually, in one of the sample papers, where they have these response to, it was, I think, the disease, right? And then what's going on with the immune response. So what's happening over time when the body is exposed to a pathogen, right? So, and then you have this curve, right, and the production of antibodies. And then you have this curve. This is in the NESA sample paper, in the NESA website. So, and then you have to annotate the graph, what's going on in each thing. So teachers, when you're teaching immune system, represent that process with different types of visuals. One could be this graph. One could be the actual process as a flow chart, right? I do one here with the shape of the human body, and then the students has to annotate what's going on when the pathogen pass the first lines of defense, second line of defense, and third line of defense. So try to be creative and expose your students in a way with 3 or 4 different types of visuals to represent the same concept, because they should be able in the exam to do annotations of these kinds of visuals graphs. So what are the expectations from us, markers? Your ideas has to be clear, right? No wishy-washy. There has to be a flow of ideas in your answer, right? So use those sentences. If you go to the samples answers from previous papers, highlight where are those links between one sentence to the next to have that flow. The interrelatedness of concepts is the key point for a Band 6, and I'm going to go through that in a minute. Refer to the stimulus materials. Do not forget to say, as per the graph, as is shown in the illustration, as it shows in the map, right? So all those things are really important, and it ticks things. Oh, I'm bigger now. Right. And it ticks things in your answer. Use the proper biology terminology. Draw the diagrams clear with black, in black, right? Because your exams will be scanned, and sometimes we do not penalize this, but it will take more time to mark your exam if the diagram or the drawing is blurry. If that is happening, right, I assure you that we have filters in our marking, in our online marking, that allow us to see things properly, right? But try you to be clear. Answer the verbs. If the verb says explain and you're just describing the concept, you're going to be penalized with lower marks because you are not answering the verb properly. Yes, the only issue with that, Tanika, is that, and this is a good experiment to do in class actually, the erasable pens, when they are exposed to heat, it just erase the pen, right? So they are going to disappear, right? So they can use it, right, as soon as they are scanned at the end of the exam and they are not exposed to heat. It happens to me, right? I just wrote things. I left the paper in my car. It was a very hot day. When I came back, the the thing was not working anymore. It disappeared. My writing disappeared. So what I did, I put it back in the fridge and it appears again. So that is a very good experiment for you to do with your juniors. And don't forget the judgment in your answer for these type of verbs. Assess is a verb that is not coming much in the papers, but evaluate and justify for sure. So Become familiar with the band descriptors in the Band 6, because when we are marking, I'm going to make this smaller now that you know me, because there you go, you can see. So these are the things that we look first in a mark. When we are marking, we're marking from top to bottom. When I get the paper to mark, I am expecting a Band 6. So I look for this first. If it's not in there, I will go to the next band, right? But my expectation is that you get a Band 6, right? And I'm marking to that level. So it means what I'm going to mark your answer is the knowledge is extensive. When I say extensive, means that I am looking for really good biological terms. It has to be succinct and logical, right? So I don't want an essay like you write in English. I want something short, clear, to the point. Precise scientific terms. If you said, oh, the things are moving, what are the things? Oh, this stuff is looking, what's the stuff, right? Just put precise terms in there. When you're going to design and plan investigations in your exams, you have to know what is accuracy, reliability, and validity of hands-on data and secondary sources. You need to know how to evaluate risks, right? All the safety around those experiments. And what's happening if you have collected or there is new evidence to reject the first idea and have a new idea, right? Just think about the theories of the germline theories, right? With the spontaneous generation and things like that. You should be able to tell me what was before and what was after with the new evidence, the new concepts and the new procedures that they were having. When you're going to analyze data, you need to be able to see the patterns and trends in graphs and tables data, right? The relationship with them, how those data explain phenomena, right? If I give you a table with an enzyme, for example, and it can happen, you learn enzymes in year 11, but we can use enzymes in year 12 because there are a lot of other processes that you are learning in year 12 got enzymes involved in there. And I can give you, well, the NESA can give you a table, and don't write the names. NESA can give you a table, right, with the data from an enzyme to explain the process, right? And then maybe that enzyme is the DNA polymerase in DNA replication. And you need to explain with that data the process of DNA replication, right? And how to make predictions with that data. This is really important. Solutions to scientific problems and applies knowledge in unfamiliar situations. You are going to have questions, maybe one or two, that your teacher did not teach that content. So when you get those questions, you don't have to say, oh, but my teacher didn't teach it, right? Because we are not focused. NESA won't focus in actually that content. It will focus in your skills to solve the problem related to a content that is unfamiliar. And if you practice questions from the last two exams, and for sure the teachers that are coming after me are going to tell you this again, you're going to see that there are topics in there that they are not in the syllabus, but address this dot point in the Band 6 descriptor. So do not panic, right? There is life after the exam, right? Cool. Right. So, summarizing. If your answer is a Band 6, these are the things that the markers are going to look for. That is extensive knowledge, their thorough understanding, the biology terms are effective, that they are logically flow of ideas, and there is succinct. You are going to be in bands 3 and 4 if you are at sound level recall of the knowledge and the basic terminology, right? So what I'm going to expect, what the markers are going to expect. If your answer has scientific concepts and skills that they are basic, that you just recall the information and you do not interrelate with other concepts, or you did not refer to the graph or the stimulus or the picture that it is in the exam, you are at this level. To move to the next level, right, those concepts has to be integrated, related, right? And you have to have more explanations with good examples related to the content that the question is asking. And if you are in the band 6 level, you actually interrelate those concepts and you give comprehensive solutions. What I means with comprehensive solutions? Solutions that they are all linked, that they make sense, that they use proper biological terminology, right? And it gives clear examples and use the example that Nessa put in the exam, right? In a very clear, succinct way. Too much to ask? Do not panic, right? Because we are no monsters when we are marked. Right. So what's happened? Any questions before I go into the actual exam? For those people who came late, you're going to have the recording of all of our sessions, and many of the slides are in the gigantic booklet that we created for all of you. Any questions? Any things? Nothing yet? Good. So, these are the exam skills that you're going to demonstrate in your exams, right? In your exams, you're going to have a reading time, right? So make mental notes of your exam when you are actually, you cannot write anything, obviously. You just make mental notes of how the exam is. When you're going to answer your multiple choices, just take your time, read. You have a minute and something per multiple choice. It doesn't seem a lot, but it is plenty of time. When you're going to answer your extended responses, you can create a list of ideas. You can create a flowchart beside the questions with online. Please do not leave unanswered questions, right? Have a go. At least you are going to get 1 mark, and that 1 mark could be the, the differences between the bands 5s and 6s and 4s in your final score. And please revise, right? If that diagram, Joanne, if the question is asking for an annotated diagram, yes, you will. Yes, you will, right? If the question, for example, is asking you to draw a cross-section of the xylem and phloem annotated, so you draw the xylem and phloem and you label it properly and you annotate what the xylem does and what the phloem does in the vessels in the plant, you get full marks, right? And it's a question that it should take 3-4 minutes to answer it. if you know the answer, right? Good question, John. It's all depend how it is. So I'm going to how long I got. So I'm going to go through two very short examples. I think I have another 4 minutes to the end of my presentation. So construct a model of the DNA, right? So you did the modeling of the DNA. Describe the model that you constructed, right? I usually use lollies to construct the model in the here in my school, and justify the design of your model. Can you see justify there? Well, the marker will expect a judgment to judge your model. This model increased my understanding. Simple as that. This model increased my understanding of the DNA molecule. Straight away, that is a 1 mark because you already put a value there. You already put a judgment in there. This is the actual marking criteria that the marker will get to mark your questions, right? This is an old paper. So for 3 marks, the marker will see a detailed description of the model with all the molecular components of the DNA correctly identified, right? So what band do you reckon that this question is addressing? Band 6, band 4, band 5? Each question will tackle different bands descriptors, right? So, no answer. What mark was that? If it says description, right, in this question, will be around bands 3 and 4. Now, this is one of the questions from that paper, right? Constructed using cardboard, blah, blah, blah. It just link all the, put all the actual molecule components and describe the molecule properly. It's even the double helix and it's a leather, blah, blah, blah. So this answer will have for a description full marks. Right? Because I just put an example of, and I'm going to go back to this one, describe the model. I didn't put the justify yet. So another one, this is coming from the paper, the sample paper in NESA. Alex, what's happening with your typing? This is another question that it says they give you a diagram, right? It's related to growing plants disease-free. Assess the potential impact of cloning in genetic diversity. You learn biodiversity in year 11. You learn genetic diversity in year 12, right? So this question, because of this verb, is tackling bands 5 and 6, band descriptors, right? So we have, even if it's a 4 marker, not necessarily a 6 marker or 8 mark or 15 marker will be a band 6. Lower marks can tackle band 6 descriptors as well, because it's asking about relationships, right? And it's asking for a judgment in the impact. Thanks, Will. Alex, what was your question related? What did I mean? Yes, Trudy. Oh, all right, fantastic. Thank you, Trudy. I need a translator today. It's end of the term. Be sympathetic with me. When I asking which band, this one, right? Refers to the band's descriptors. Good question. Refers to the band's descriptor, right? So you have to become familiar with the band descriptors. What is expected from you when they say description will be around middle band descriptors, right? So you need to become familiar with the band descriptors. I cannot explain each section of the band descriptors in these things, but if you read them, you're going to be able to do that, to see which type of bands. And as I said in here, what type of band is band descriptor is related to the verbs that they are asking for, right? So this is one of the answers. All this is in your, it will be in your recordings, right? So you can go back and revise with your school. So I have put in there a list of websites that you can use to revise, to get resources, to get examples, to get diagrams, etc., etc. So for the genetics, I highly recommend Learn Genetics and the biointeractives for genetics and diseases. There are plenty of things with actually the worksheets for all of you teachers. So the World Health Organization for data is really a good one now, particularly with COVID. And the Conca Biology notes is a summary of the entire subject. So I wish all of you good luck. I think that all of you are going to be successful if you actually sit down and study, right? And if you have any questions, you can put it on the chat pod or you can email me. And I will see you later on during the day in the next module.
Yes, thank you. Infectious diseases.
Very
Exciting stuff. All right, guys, we've got a little 2-minute break before we move on to Timothy Sloan, who's going to be presenting on heredity. I always fumble that one, module 5. All right, so sit tight. Thank you, Dr. Rudman. I always enjoy listening to you. Okay, so sit tight and we will change the, and I'll